Let me grab your heart right now with this truth. Some of the brightest, most thoughtful people in the world often dread socializing, not because they're cold, not because they're arrogant, but because the noise of shallow conversations feels like suffocation to them. You see, smart people crave depth. They want conversations that feel like oxygen, not static. They don't want to spend hours talking about the weather, gossiping about neighbors, or circling around meaningless small talk. To them, this feels like draining their spirit drop by drop. It's not that they hate people, it's that they struggle in spaces where connection never goes beyond the surface. Their souls are wired for meaningful exchanges, for exploring truth, ideas, vulnerability, and possibilities. But our world doesn't often reward depth. It rewards speed. It rewards small talk. It rewards the loudest voice in the room instead of the most thoughtful. And for someone who sees through the surface, this becomes exhausting. So the very first surprising reason smart people hate socializing, they're allergic to shallow conversations. They don't want to fake a laugh or nod politely while their minds are screaming for authenticity, because for them, connection is sacred, and pretending it in social settings feels like betrayal to themselves and to the truth they value. Another surprising reason smart people often hate socializing is because they carry a mind that never stops observing. Imagine walking into a room and noticing not just what's being said, but what's being left unsaid, the body language, the subtle glances, the tension between two people pretending to get along, the energy shifts nobody else notices. For someone with a sharp, perceptive mind, social gatherings are not just conversations, they're emotional puzzles. And while others might laugh and mingle without thought, the observant one is decoding 100 signals at once. It's exhausting. Instead of relaxing into the moment, they're absorbing every contradiction, every false smile, every hidden agenda. And here's the truth. When you see too much, it's hard to enjoy the surface. It feels like standing in a crowd with a spotlight on all the cracks in the walls. So they pull back. Not because they don't want connection, but because connection feels complicated when you can't unsee the undercurrents swirling around the room. This is why silence often feels safer. Solitude feels kinder. In solitude, their mind doesn't have to scan and analyze. They can breathe without drowning in the noise of unspoken truths. It's not antisocial, it's self-preservation. It's the need to protect their emotional energy in a world that often demands more than it gives. One more surprising reason smart people hate socializing, they feel drained by pretending. Let's be honest, so many social settings are built on performance. You walk into a party and suddenly you're expected to smile wider, laugh louder, and keep the conversation light no matter what's weighing on your heart. For highly intelligent, deeply aware people, this feels like wearing a mask that grows heavier with every passing minute. It's not that they can't play the role. They can. In fact, they often play it too well. They can blend, they can joke, they can carry the conversation with charm, but the cost is high inside. They feel like actors trapped in a script they didn't choose. And when the night is over, instead of feeling nourished, they feel hollow. Why? Because authenticity is their lifeline. Pretending feels like betrayal. For them, connection must be real or it becomes poison. They don't want to nod along to conversations that don't matter or laugh at things that aren't funny or hide their true emotions to make others comfortable. So the third reason smart people hate socializing is simple yet powerful. They refuse to waste their soul on pretense. And the more life teaches them the value of truth, the more allergic they become to the games people play in the name of connection. Another surprising reason smart people hate socializing is because their energy is limited and they feel everything deeply. Most people see socializing as casual fun, but for a thoughtful, intelligent person, every interaction carries weight. They don't just hear words, they absorb emotions. They don't just notice laughter, they notice the strain behind it. They don't just join conversations, they feel the energy of the entire room pressing against them. And this comes at a cost. While others may leave a gathering feeling energized, smart people often leave feeling depleted. Their nervous system's been on overdrive, processing layer after layer of hidden tension, unspoken needs, and invisible emotions. This sensitivity isn't weakness, it's awareness, but awareness takes energy and energy is finite. And when their tank runs low, socializing feels more like a burden than a joy. That's why solitude feels sacred. Alone, they can recharge. Alone, they don't have to carry the weight of other people's emotions. Alone, they can return to their natural rhythm without the noise of expectation. So the fourth reason smart people hate socializing is not that they dislike humans, it's that they understand their limits. They know their boundaries, and they honor the truth that protecting their energy isn't selfish, it's survival. Here's another surprising reason smart people often hate socializing. They're allergic to superficial validation. Think about how many conversations in social settings are built on status, who got the promotion, who bought a new car, who's vacationing where. For someone who values meaning over material, these exchanges feel hollow, even suffocating. Smart people don't measure life by shiny trophies or social comparisons. They measure life by depth, by courage, by truth, by growth. So when they're trapped in spaces where people are competing for attention instead of connecting for real, they begin to disconnect. It's not that they can't appreciate success. They absolutely can. But what they long for is substance. They want to know what drives you, what breaks you, what heals you, what lights your soul on fire. They don't care about how many followers you have. They care about who you are when no one's watching. And when conversations never leave the surface, they feel like they're suffocating in a shallow pool when they were born to swim in the ocean. And when conversations never leave the surface, they feel like they're suffocating in a shallow pool when they were born to swim in the ocean. So the fifth reason smart people hate socializing is clear. They don't crave popularity. They crave authenticity. And when the world mistakes noise for connection, they would rather choose silence than lose themselves in the game of empty validation. Another surprising reason smart people hate socializing is because they're often misunderstood. When you think deeply, feel deeply, and speak with honesty, not everyone is ready for that kind of intensity. In fact, it can intimidate people. It can make them uncomfortable. So instead of leaning in, many step back. They label the intelligent person as too serious, too sensitive, or even arrogant. Imagine living in a world where your curiosity is mistaken for criticism, where your honesty is twisted into harshness, where your silence is read as judgment. That's the reality for many smart people. And over time, it hurts. It makes them pull away, not because they don't want connection, but because they're tired of being misread. So they choose distance, not because they dislike people, but because being misunderstood again and again feels lonelier than being alone. And here's the truth. Depth isn't arrogance. Sensitivity isn't weakness. Honesty isn't cruelty. These are gifts. But in a world that often prefers easy smiles over raw truth, smart people often find themselves outsiders. So the sixth reason smart people hate socializing is this. They'd rather embrace solitude than keep shrinking themselves to be understood. They choose truth over comfort, even if it means walking alone. Another surprising reason smart people hate socializing is because they struggle with the noise of social masks. Let's be honest, most gatherings are filled with people wearing masks, the polite smile, the forced laugh, the carefully curated version of themselves designed to look happy, successful, and unbothered. And for highly intelligent, deeply aware people, those masks are loud. They can feel the disconnect between what's shown and what's real, and it unsettles them. They don't want the performance. They want the raw, messy, beautiful truth of being human. They want conversations about struggle, about courage, about heartbreak, about joy that isn't polished for display. They want to meet souls, not masks. But when they walk into rooms where everyone is posturing, it feels like suffocation. It feels like a theater, not a gathering. And they don't want to play a role. They want to live the story. So they step back, not because they can't fit in, but because fitting in would mean betraying themselves. This is the seventh reason smart people hate socializing. They crave authenticity in a world addicted to appearances. They would rather sit in silence with someone who is real than be surrounded by 100 people pretending to be perfect. Another surprising reason smart people hate socializing is because they carry the weight of overthinking. While others can glide through a conversation with ease, they're analyzing every word, every pause, every shift in tone. They replay moments long after the night is over. Did I say too much? Did I not say enough? Did I sound awkward? Did I hurt someone without realizing it? This constant self-reflection isn't about insecurity. It's about awareness. Their minds are wired to examine, to dissect, to search for meaning in everything. But in social settings, this gift turns heavy. Instead of feeling free, they feel like they're walking on a tightrope, balancing between being authentic and being accepted. And here's the painful part. By the time the evening ends, they're exhausted not just from the noise of others, but from the noise inside their own head. What feels lighthearted for most becomes a mental marathon for them. So they begin to avoid situations that trigger this endless loop of analysis. They choose peace over pressure, solitude over second guessing. That's the eighth reason smart people hate socializing, because their minds don't stop at the surface. They run deep, and that depth can become overwhelming in rooms filled with noise instead of truth. Another surprising reason smart people hate socializing is because their standards for connection are higher than most. They're not looking for just anyone to fill the silence. They're looking for people who challenge their thinking, expand their perspective, and honor their truth. They don't want a crowd. They want depth. They don't crave 1,000 voices. They crave a handful of souls who can sit with them in honesty, in vulnerability, in courage. And because these kinds of connections are rare, most social gatherings feel empty to them. They walk away not fulfilled, but disappointed. Not because people are bad, but because the exchange felt shallow compared to what they long for. This doesn't make them antisocial. It makes them intentional. They'd rather spend one evening having a soul-stirring conversation with a single person than waste 10 nights drifting through meaningless chatter with a crowd. So the ninth reason smart people hate socializing is simple. They're searching for something rare, genuine, life-giving connection. And when they don't find it, they'd rather stay alone than settle for less, because for them, connection is not about passing time, it's about touching truth. And truth, my friends, is too sacred to be traded for noise. And finally, the 10th surprising reason smart people hate socializing. They value their inner world above the outer noise. Smart, thoughtful people often find their deepest joy in solitude and reading, creating, reflecting, dreaming. Their inner world is rich, full of ideas, emotions, and meaning. And so, when faced with shallow conversations or performative gatherings, it feels like leaving a cathedral of truth just to stand in a noisy marketplace. It's not about disliking people. It's about choosing quality over quantity. It's about protecting their soul from being drained by spaces that don't honor their depth. And here's the most powerful truth. Hating socializing doesn't make them broken, arrogant, or antisocial. It makes them aware. It makes them guardians of their own peace. It makes them honest about what their heart truly craves. So the next time you find yourself wondering why a brilliant person avoids crowds, remember this. It's not rejection of people, it's protection of self. It's not hatred of connection. It's hunger for something deeper, something real, something lasting. And I'll end with this. Never apologize for craving authenticity. Never shrink yourself to fit into rooms where masks are the currency. And then never confuse loneliness with solitude, because solitude can be sacred. And in that sacred space, you find your truest self.